right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue our presentation or our learning on the sales cycle. So we've already talked about the cycle in general, how it flows from one point to the next. We've talked about the first two parts of the sales cycle, which are prospecting and initiating and establishing rapport. Now we're going to go on to the next two sections today, just to keep this thing going. And these two are actually pretty easy, so this should be a pretty short presentation, but it is the most crucial part of this, at least the first part to me is the identifying needs. So once we've established a rapport, once we've gotten through all of that, we need to start identifying the needs of our client. Now, whether we're buying or selling, it's moot. They all have needs and what they're looking for. It's a lot easier when somebody's selling their property because they need to sell their home. But it doesn't mean that you don't need to investigate this a little bit further, because it's still going to remain important, because they may have needs on what they're looking for to buy, and you might be able to leverage into that. They may have very specific needs and when they need to move. So we really need to identify what our clients need. And this, to me, is the 100 most important thing. Sales is not about talking. Sales is about listening and effective question asking. So this is where that happens, right here. It is not about getting them to sign on the dotted line. It's not about any of that other stuff that everybody sees in movies like Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street. That's not what it is. Selling is about identifying needs and helping a consumer get to what they need, okay, and providing solutions for them. So the first thing I want to bring up about this is you need to ask open-ended questions. We talked about this a little bit in the last video. Open-ended questions are actually very, very simple to master. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it's best to practice this. I like to practice this with my children. If you've got kids, this is the best way to really establish a relationship with your kids. Try not to ask them how open-ended or closed-ended questions. So there's open-ended and closed-ended. Closed-ended questions are questions that can be answered with one word. Okay, most people make mistakes with, so would you like 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms? Okay, that's an open-ended question. You don't really get a lot of information out of that. One of the things that you want to do is ask a question that involves them telling a story. If you do ask a closed-ended question, follow it with, why is that? So I practice this a lot with my kids to sharpen my sales skills, but mainly to get to know my kids, get to understand how they're thinking or what's going on. Hey, how was school today? Fine. That it's too general. It doesn't demand an explanation or anybody really talking to you about this. It is just a very closed-ended question. So to open up the end of the question, you're going to ask something along the lines like, what happened in math class today? You're going to ask questions that are going to have them pull this thing out. If you know that something happened at school today, tell me about what happened. That right there is going to open up an entire conversation. So you want to get somebody talking about themselves. Our job is a service industry job. You need people talking about themselves. The more people can talk about themselves, the better of a job you're doing. It is not the Colin show. It is not about how amazing I am. Save that for job interviews or something else like that. It is about them. You want them talking about them. And the purpose of this, and I talked about this a little bit in the last video, is about using the Socratic method to get to understand what's going on. You need to get to the why. Okay, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom house. Why is that? Oh, because both me and my husband, you only have one kid. Both me and my husband work from home. We'd like a bedroom, 2 offices, and a room for our child. Guys, that's a why. And you need to get that. So open-ended questions are going to be all about finding a way to arrive to the why they want something. If you can truly understand why somebody wants something, you're going to be able to help them understand that need. Just because they say they want a 4-bedroom, if you don't know that they want 2 offices and a bedroom for their child and a bedroom for them, maybe you'll have a house that identifies as that it's in the MLS as 2 with 2 offices. You just missed your entire opportunity there, and it could have been the perfect house. So you need to understand why anybody needs anything. If they're looking to sell their house, and they're like, man, I really need to sell my house. I need to sell it as quick as possible. Why is that? Guys, just ask the question. It's okay. When you're asking questions, though, you must listen. Listen to them. And when I say listen, I mean to the deepest core of anything in your being. Imagine you're courting your wife and she is telling you something. You need to be that captivated with what they are saying. Yes, we have heard 100 times that they have 3 kids and therefore they need a 4-bedroom house. You may have heard that 100 times, but again, with that previous example, they may have asked for 4 bedrooms because of another need. You need to make sure you fully understand and listen to them. Don't just wait for your opportunity to talk. If you are truly engaged with somebody, asking open-ended questions are the easiest thing in the world. If you're waiting for your turn to talk, that means you're trying to formulate your next question instead of originally listening. Guys, when you truly listen to somebody, there's going to be a natural flow to the conversation. When you're truly, I mean, it's Stephen Covey's Seek First to Understand. There's a great story that I love. I can't remember who it was. It's some famous actress from, I don't know, the 1950s, I don't know, whatever. Let's just say Elizabeth Taylor, but that's not the right person. I know that. But she went out on 2 dates with 2 very famous people, and she was interviewed by the gossip column or whatever. And she was like, what was it like going out with guy A versus like going out with guy B? And she said, well, guy A, who was really impressive, the king of whatever. She said, man, hanging out with him, man, I really realized that he was just a really important person. Said hanging out with guy B made me feel like I was the most important person. So when you ask open-ended questions and you're seeking to understand and you're truly listening, your client is going to feel important. That's going to fall right into the rapport building. That's going to fall right into really, truly qualifying your client and understanding what's going on. The next one is handle objections up front. Now, handling objections does not typically come till later in the sales cycle, and that's okay. One of the things that I learned that was insanely valuable to me as I was going out and making sales calls, that if I kept running into the same objection over and over and over again, then I could not overcome. That means I need to handle that objection first. So this is a little hard to understand if you're really, really green or really, really new to this, but the first person to an objection wins. Whoever says the objection first will win that objection battle. Here's an example. We are not really ready to make a decision. Okay? If somebody says that one, that's called a time objection. They're a procrastination objection. I don't know, we need to think about it. I don't know, we need to pray about it. I don't know, we need to do whatever it is. If you keep running into that over and over again, you need to be the first one to handle that objection. And identifying needs is a great time to do that. So if you keep running into a procrastination objection, which is a very, very, very common one, okay, we need time to think about it. We have more people to interview. We have whatever it might be. Handle that objection up front. So when we're identifying needs, guys, I'm going to find out what that, if it's a procrastination objection, for example, where we're talking about their house, we're talking about this, we're talking about a timeline. When do you want to move? Oh, we need to move as fast as possible. Really? So it sounds like we need to get started tonight, doesn't it? I'm handling that objection up front, but I'm using the data that they gave me to handle that objection. Guys, this is not manipulation in any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes people need help. Sometimes people get analysis paralysis, or they're just scared to make a decision. And it's hard for them to make the decision. But if they realize the importance using their own statements, that's great. Now, there's a lot of salespeople that use this tactic and use it incorrectly, in my opinion. They use it to twist their arm or to make them feel bad if they don't make a decision. That's not the point of it at all. It's the point of this right here is handling objections, especially like the procrastination one up front, is to make sure that they understand and that they are reminded of what they said to you. It's not about me twisting your arm, okay? We can sell this house today or we can sell it in 6 months, whatever it is, but you said you needed to move quickly, right? What's going to happen if we don't sell this house quickly? That's another great open-ended question. Now that's going to get more into the objections thing, and I'm going to talk more about using that particular tactic later. But if the point of today during the identifying needs section, because this should be where you have an open conversation with your people. So when you establish rapport, you're just getting to know each other. When you're identifying needs, you are talking business, and I need to understand what you want. And if I keep running into an objection, this is the perfect time to handle it. Okay. Last one on this one is paint a picture. Now, I used to be a teacher. I talk about that a lot. I love teaching people. That's why I love teaching here. But you have to paint a picture when you're talking to somebody. It helps in two ways in sales. Way number one is it checks for your understanding. Okay. It makes sure that you heard them correctly and that you are regurgitating what they told you. And also, painting a picture is going to help you close the deal. Okay. So at the end of the conversation, let's say we're doing a buyer's meeting, and I'm telling them, okay, so what it sounds like you need to me is a house that has this, that probably looks like this, that doesn't have one of these, that your kids, it's going to be close to your kids' school. And so if we found a house that was at the corner of this street and this street with this, that, blah, 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 and a pool, and whatever it is they said, is that something you'd be interested in? Again, I'm ending with a question. Now that's a closing to the question because I'm hoping the answer is yes. If they go, well, except for that. Okay, hold on a second. So when you said this, was I right? Am I misunderstanding it? That's a big one, guys, is you need to understand if you said something or understood something incorrectly. That's fine. We should be the master communicators in this relationship selling to somebody. We should be the master communicators. We should be the ones that can say and understand or explain our position very, very clearly. Most people that we deal with, most of the general population, are not good communicators. Somebody told me a long time ago, and it is 100% true, that 100% of problems are problems of communication. Either you did not express your concerns clear enough, either they didn't understand them clear enough, whatever it is, it does not matter. Expectations, time, whatever is going wrong, whenever you have a problem, you have to realize that it's because you failed somewhere in your communication. And right here, when you paint a picture for somebody, you are checking for your understanding and you're helping them visualize what it is that they want, which will in turn help you close this transaction. Hey, let me just make sure if I keep going back to cars. If I'm selling cars, okay, like the last car deal, I keep bringing this up because it just pops in my head how bad this guy was. I go to buy this car. He must ask me 900 times, how much do you want your payment to be? Dude, money's not my problem. Okay. Like I don't care. What do I want my payment to be? How many times do you think they get some smart ass answer like $5 a month, right? That's a terrible question to ask. Okay. What you need to ask is, hey, how many kids do you have? Do you take them to school a lot? You know, is it important that you have room? Do you drive around for work a lot? How many miles do you put on your car a year? Is gas efficiency something important to you? Do you ever move things? Do you need a truck? Do you need cargo space? Do you move things, but you actually need like an enclosed thing? Maybe you need an SUV. How many kids do you have? Is putting the seat up and down easy important to you? All of those questions need to come into it. So then when you get to the end of this one, because it's pretty easy, you're going to say something like, okay, let me see if I got this straight. You need seating for at least 4. You'd like to have third row seating if possible, because you sometimes take the kids to the soccer games and you pick up their friends. But if you're coaching that day, you're going to need some space. So it sounds like you need like an SUV to me that has an easy up and down third row. We happen to have something like that. Can I show it to you? Okay. I've identified the needs. I've painted the picture. Handling objections in front, I skipped in that one. I listened to them and we're good to go. Same thing on a house, guys. Like I said, I'm painting a picture. So if I found a house that was somewhere near this intersection that had this many things and had a pool and a gated community, whatever it is that they said, you need to paint a picture to make sure you are clear, because it will speed up the entire transaction so fast. Now, the reason why I put this little infinity symbol in this one is because identifying needs can go on as long as it needs to. If when you paint a picture, you were wrong, you need to ask more open-ended questions, listen, and handle any objections that may come up with that. Okay? And it goes over and over and over again. You can handle objections if you know. This was an interesting one. I've been talking lately about this other client because it's fresh in my mind, who wanted this house built in like 1970 to 1980 that wasn't updated. Okay, so one of the premier objections that will come from that particular thing, when she told me that, I said, you have to understand, if this has not been updated in 40 years, this house is going to have problems. Are you okay with problems? Her immediate response was not yes. Her immediate response was, what kind of problems? Well, that's hard to say. And she kind of goes, what do you mean? Electric codes have changed a lot. So when we get the house inspected, we're going to they may be problems, or they may just be old code items. You know, the roof, if they haven't replaced it in 40 years, that could be problematic. Houses here in San Antonio settle. There may be signs of excessive settling and possible foundation issues. Is that something you're okay with tackling? And she asked me more questions, right? And we go back and forth. And once I found out, it's really funny because we actually just closed on the house for her. She didn't want it that bad. The more I talked to her, the more she got scared and scared and scared and scared. She's starting to think, man, I'm too old to handle these problems. I want a house that's more secure, stable, whatever it's going. Okay. And then as we get to talking more, we find out that she doesn't like flips. And I've said that to you before, because they're too sterile feeling. Wonderful. So as we go from this, guys, she just signed a contract. We haven't closed yet on a brand new build. Okay. The house was built by Lennar, brand new build in this thing. She thought she wanted to be in Converse. After some exploring, she actually really wanted to be closer to New Braunfels, but her price point wouldn't allow it unless we had the new build with the incentives. And she wanted something that she could kind of customize that had that flavor that she wanted without feeling sterile. Guys, if you would have gone and shown her 100 houses that were built in 1970, you would have spun your wheels, freaked her out, and spent a lot of option money. Because every time you got an inspection report back, she'd freak out. You got to listen, handle objections. Now, sometimes I'll be honest with this lady, I didn't do a real good job of explaining all this up front. So I did spin my wheels for a while. But as we went and looked at houses, and as she panicked and as she freaked, this process keeps going on and on and on and on, especially in a realtor buying rep situation. As I'm helping people buy houses, every house we go see, I'm asking open-ended questions. I'm listening, I'm handling any objections, and I'm painting a picture of what the next house we go look like is. Guys, all of that's going to be continuously going on. And this right here to me is the most important step in this thing to master. Okay? You've just got to get good at understanding something, what your client needs. Next, going forward on the next part of the sales cycle, guys, is presenting an offer. All right, so we're going to present an offer now. What is the offer? Everything in sales has an offer in there somewhere. If you're selling cars, hey, how about this one? Do you want me to write you up? Terrible way to do it, but whatever. Okay. When I was doing fundraising, hey, do you want to do a fundraiser with me? Whenever you're selling, it doesn't matter if you're selling oil rig parts, right? Hey, do you see the benefit of this one? Do you want to buy this one? That is presenting an offer. And what we sell in this transaction is not houses. We sell ourselves. The very first thing that you're going to sell is getting this client attached to you. Getting this client attached to you. Are you ready to sign a buyer's rep agreement, a seller's rep agreement? That is our first step. Okay. So when we go to present our offer to them, we have had to exhibited that we fully understand their needs. I've built enough rapport where they know I get them, I understand them, and I've shown them that I understand what they're looking for. And when I present my offer is the first time I will start talking about what I do. Not until I have done everything else do I start. So the first thing when you go to present an offer, guys, is you want to make sure your offer is customized, no matter how it is. Okay, guys, like I said earlier, our job is not to cram something down somebody's throat. Our job is to find out what they want and bring them what they want. So when I'm presenting an offer, I will alter that presentation based on what they told me. Were you listening? Okay. For a perfect example, guys, is if somebody wants to sell their house and for some reason they are terrified of having, I don't know, let's go with the COVID thing. I don't want people in my house, period, the end, unless there is a contract on this house. Now, you're like, how is that possible? Well, it is possible. And I was listening. So when they tell me that, I'm going to go, okay, here's what I'm going to need to do. So my offer to her is going to say, so when I go to list your house, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to go get the 3D camera. I can't think what it's, Matterport. I'm going to go get a Matterport and I'm going to hire a really good videographer to get through this thing. Because I want to be able to present this house on the internet where everybody can understand exactly how each room flows to the other without ever having to step foot in this house. We're going to do multiple live viewings. where I'm going to come through, I'm going to walk through, I'm going to invite people to come on these things so they can ask questions and I can show them. Guys, I just customized what I'm doing. I just built a huge ton of faith with her because she's scared. I mean, maybe she's got a pre-existing health condition. She just doesn't want anybody in here. And if somebody puts in an offer, then they can come review. Does that make sense? I'm using that as kind of an obscure example, but like, were you listening? I really don't want my house listed on Zillow. Did you hear that? Did you ask why? Well, because my friend something, figure out why. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe they have a misunderstanding about what Zillow is. Well, I heard Zillow is where the pedophiles hang out. Well, where did you hear that? Right? It's like, that's not how that works at all. Right? So the internet's where the bad people are. Well, sort of, but like, that's not how Zillow works. Right? So make sure you're listening. Make sure you customize your offer when you're presenting your offer. Now, next thing when you present your offer, guys, is you want to make sure that you ask closing questions. You are getting very close to closing. At the end of your presentation, you are going to try to close them. Again, our closing is, do you want to work with me? That is basically it. Now, don't use that question. We're going to talk more about closing later. But that's what closing is. So I need to start asking closing questions. This is for two reasons. One, again, to make sure that they are understanding what I'm saying to them. Okay, make sure that the offer that I'm presenting is coming across and that they really understand. So when I paint a picture in the previous step, identifying needs, I'm checking to make sure I understand. When I tell them what I'm going to do you understand what a Matterport is? They're going to come in, it's going to take this, it's going to make like a dollhouse rendering of your house, the thing. Does that sound good to you? No? Okay, why not? I don't know what a Matterport is. Great thing. I'm going to get out my phone. I'm going to show them a picture of it. It's this fancy camera. It looks like this. Okay. Another good one, the one that I put in here, is there any reason you wouldn't want to get started selling your home today? Guys, that's handling an objection real quick. Remember I used that procrastination one? That will be the one that you will run into the most. So I'm going to start handling that one real quick. That might actually be how I start my presentation. Hey, so I'm going to show you what we do. I know you said you're in a little bit of a hurry. If you like what I say, is there any reason we couldn't start getting pictures taken together tomorrow? No, that sounds fine. Great. Let's talk about it, right? I'm going to start getting them thinking about making a decision. In my humble experience, and it's hard for me to say this because it's not my personality. I don't have a hard time making decisions. I'm wrong a lot. Okay, you can ask my wife; she'll tell you all about it. I am wrong all the time, but I'm not scared to make a decision. Let's go do that. Let's go do this. Some people hate making decisions. They're terrified to make decisions, and it's important to help people make decisions, especially in this one. There's a difference between that and forcing a decision out of somebody. Okay, what do you want to have for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? How many times have you had that conversation with your spouse? That's just lack of making a decision. My wife knows better than to ask me that. Colin, what do you want for dinner? I want to go here. Well, I don't want that. Well, then don't ask me. Okay. Like, I'm not scared to make a decision. It doesn't bother me. Most people are scared to make a decision. There's ways around that. Guys, a perfect closing question. If you happen to have that problem with your spouse a lot, hey, you know what? I wanted to take you to your favorite restaurant tonight. Really? What do you think it is? Oh my God, is it fill in the blank? That's it. So it's a tricky way to get them to pass that procrastination decision making, but it works. It's very effective. Guys, so start asking closing questions right off the bat. Okay. During your presentation, you need to work them in. I wish I could tell you exactly where and when to ask closing questions, but guys, this is an art, not a science. I could give you a script. Everybody's always asked me through my sales career how I feel about scripts. And one of the first things so my old company, we used to hire a lot of college kids to sell a separate product that would do it during the summers. And then once they graduated, we'd hire them into my company. And there was actually 13 companies. And so we'd hire them in there. And these guys were trained on scripts. Why? They're college kids. They're green. They don't know. Just go here, read this thing and memorize it and then say it. And we had a script in my company. And everybody asked me, well, do I think that's important? I said, well, I think understanding how a script is written is more important than memorizing a script. So guys, what I need you to understand is asking closing questions are in a script and there's a reason for it. Okay. Closing questions are just helping people towards a decision. Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to do this today? Okay. If this worked out for you, would you be excited to get started tomorrow? Right? Those are closing questions. Present value. Guys, you have to show value. Here's the problem. Every realtor costs the same amount. Not everyone. Yes, there's discount brokerages, whatever. Who cares? But most of the time, if you're going to sell somebody's house, you're asking for 6%. Okay? If they're interviewing realtors, you've either had people in front of you or people behind you. What is the difference and why will people not want to pay the same amount? There's no value to them. You are not different. You either did, and one big way to stand out, guys, huge, and it's been like pretty much my only secret sauce, is establishing rapport and identifying their needs. If they like me and that they understand that I am on the same page with them, then guys, that is huge value. But beyond that, you need to share the value of what you're going to do that's going to be different in any given way. And that depends on what they want. You can't go in there saying, I'm the digital marketing king of the world, and that's all I do, because if that's you, you just screwed yourself if you got somebody who's scared of the internet. Okay? That's a very, very drastic example, but that's my point, guys. You need to present value in what is important to them. Okay? In the car sales example with the guy going earlier, one of the big things that was important for me when I went and bought my truck is I wanted a truck because I drive a lot. I don't want a V10 6 miles per gallon truck that can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. I've got kids, I've got this. Here's what I need. I need a truck that gets good gas mileage because I drive all day long. And every now and then I need to carry a bunch of signs, maybe like I do a lot of rehab. I need to be able to put some drywall on the back and go take it somewhere. That's what was important to me. If I need to haul a 9,000 pound dumpster, that's a totally different game. So when the value comes to it, now we're going to say, hey, look, this one right here, and since you drive a lot, this one has the Kelley Blue Book value that reduces the least with mileage. Because I know I'm going to sell it. That's value to me. Okay, so pay attention to what it is that the people want. And you know what? We're going to throw in free oil changes for you, and we'll rotate your tires for free. Again, value for me because I get an oil change once a month. Guys, you've got to be able to listen and present value in where that is. Next thing when presenting an offer, again, like I was saying earlier, this is the first time you get to talk. Or, I mean, yes, of course, you're talking the whole time, but this is the first time you're going to be going. If you ask a question, silence is okay. If you've ever done any kind of public speaking seminars or whatever, or if you've been to Toastmasters or tried to learn something, one of the funny things they always do is ding you every time you say or okay or whatever. And you make these long syllabic sounds in the middle of your presentation. If you do that, it is an American thing. It is a Western world thing because people in the West are uncomfortable with silence. We don't like there to be quiet in a conversation. That is very uniquely American. So we say things like, and we draw out the last syllable, the last vowel technically, of any speech pattern that we have. I catch myself doing it a lot too. And it's okay to be quiet. If somebody asks you a question, it's okay to think about it. It's okay to stop for a second. It's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. Can I get back to you? What do you mean by that question? And the biggest thing I can say in this is if you ask somebody else a question and they don't respond within like 2 seconds, sorry, my printer just went off. If they don't respond in like 2 seconds, and then people tend to wait for a second and then just immediately interrupt. So if they wait for a second and then immediately interrupt, you're being impatient. You need to chill out for a hot second. Just ask the question and give them a second to respond. It's okay. Because you'll shoot yourself in the foot. You're either going to upset them, irritate them, throw them off their game. Silence is okay, especially when it's your turn to talk. If you ask a question, shut up and listen. Pretty simple. And lastly on this one, guys, is get ready for objections. That is the next part after presenting an offer, is handling objections. They're going to say something that makes you feel like you did a bad job. That's most people's initial reaction. That's most people's adversement to sales in general. Most people are tired of sales or scared of sales because what if they tell me no? What if they don't like what I have? Guys, objections are good. I promise. And in the next one, I'm going to show you how to handle objections. What that means is they are listening. They are listening to you. And there was a miscommunication somewhere. They told you what you wanted. You presented something. They don't like it. We've gone back and forth. It's okay. That just means you didn't understand something or they didn't articulate it well. Okay? Or you're just presenting the same offer over and over again, which is no good. Okay? And why your offer fits all their needs. Sometimes it doesn't, guys. But in our situation, it pretty much does. So you've got to listen to this. So get ready for the objections. All right? And then I should have put this one in here. I didn't at the end. I left this part out, but this is so important. Ask for the business. Ask the question. Ask the question. Are you ready to get started? That's the one I tend to use, okay? And especially in this one. I don't care what the question is. If you don't ask it, there's no chance for them to say yes. Okay? Will you go on a date with me? Do you want to buy this house? Whatever it is, in any sales situation, if you don't ask the question, they're not magically going to say, all right, let's do this. Now, if you're really good, sometimes they do that. But very seldomly do people just go, I like it, where do I sign? That's movie crap. That doesn't happen in our real world. You have to ask the question. Are you ready to get started? Does everything sound good to you? Yeah. Don't say that. Does that make sense? That's not a closing question. When you present the offer, you end with a closing question. Are you ready to get started? Great. I need you to sign a handful of things and I'm going to walk you through them and what they mean. Okay? Great. Let's do it. Okay? You've got to ask for the business. Guys, again, you are asking for people to choose you. It's the same as asking somebody on a date. You want to go to dinner. It's the most terrifying question, especially the first time you ask it. Will you marry me? Okay? But here's the funny thing, guys. The will you marry me question, you should not ask that until you know the answer. Right? Think about that. We've found our prospects. We've initiated contact. We've established rapport. We've hung, and that's the long part in the marriage one, right? We got to establish a lot of rapport. But during that timeline, we figure out what they want. We've identified their needs. I want to have kids. I want to do this. I want to do that, whatever it is. And once you've gotten to that point, asking that "Will you marry me?" question isn't scary. It is scary. I don't know why. Because I might not sound arrogant, but I knew my wife was going to say yes. But it's still a terrifying question. But I still had to ask it. You just got to ask it. If somebody's going to say yes, you have to ask it. Okay. Now, moving forward on this, I just have one last thing before I let everybody go. Moving forward, guys, how do I present an offer? How do I present this offer? There are different ways to do this. When somebody is selling or when somebody's buying a house, all I'm really truly doing is presenting myself. We have access to the MLS. I can get them into all the houses. I have access to go find all the for sale by owners that are registered anywhere on the internet. We have all of that stuff, right? I don't really have a canned presentation that I use for buyers things. Again, my whole thing is going to be truly customized to what they tell me. Okay, cool. You can only see houses on Saturdays. I'm going to block off my next Saturdays for the rest of the month. How does that sound to you? Perfect. Right? Are you ready to get started? Those are pretty easy. On the selling side, if I'm selling somebody's house, if you haven't seen my presentation on Listing Booster, please go to the YouTube page, White Line Realty, find the one on Listing Booster. I have to be honest with you, this is the one I've used for all of my listing presentations. You can download this presentation, it's in PowerPoint, from the Listing Booster site. It is free. All you got to do, watch the video. That's how you get it. You got to watch the video because how you get it at the end, I'm not going to tell you. So go watch that other video. If you want to go through with somebody and find out what we can do on the listing side and make it look and sound really sexy, because sometimes in the selling situation, if I'm selling somebody's house, they want to list a lot of people. They want to find out a lot of people, especially if you're selling high-end houses. You're going to be really wanting to understand what it is you can do for them. So go check out the Listing Booster presentation. It's me and Ariel Cap. She's on there, and she talks a great deal about this. So guys, that is all I have for you today. That is how we present offers. We've got one more week left. It's going to be so much fun because this is going to be the hard part. We're going to go into handling objections and closing, which are the two things that scare most people the most. Okay, but you do have to ask a closing question at presenting the offer. That's how you end it. There should be objections. Sometimes there's not. And then how to close. And this one is a lot of fun. A lot of people are scared about closing, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So I will see you next week. Other than that, give me a call if you got any questions.